Good Friday evening and welcome to the NCWLIFE Evening News. I'm Grant Olson. Before we get to today's top news stories, let's take a peek outside our weather window. And boy, we were pretty limited on what we could show you from this afternoon. The clouds, a very low cloud deck all around north central Washington throughout most of the day today. Off and on rain showers more on here in the Wenatchee Valley throughout the day today. And a pretty decent rain total since yesterday, too. We'll talk about that coming up. But a pretty quiet weekend is ahead. But boy, by the time we get into next week, yeah, an atmospheric river comes our way once again. And that's just like a big old hose being directed right at us. And we're going to see that next week. The good news is with all that rain Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, is we will see some very warm temperatures with readings into the mid 40s. And we'll have your complete weather forecast coming up a little bit later on. And now a few of the stories we're following for you tonight. A structure fire not far from the Lake Chelan Airport this morning destroyed an outbuilding and threatened a home. Grant County reported 8 more COVID-19 deaths yesterday, 4 of them associated with an outbreak at Columbia Crest Center in Moses Lake. If you've been wondering how much COVID-19 vaccine is on the way and when you might get yours, we'll have some answers for you. And the weekly measure of the Wenatchee Valley's COVID-19 situation continues to rise. But first, we begin tonight. The 2 inmates who escaped from the Okanogan County Jail remain at large tonight, 3 days after they slipped out through the air vent system. Christian Edward White and Christopher L. Whitman fled the jail early Tuesday by climbing into a vent and onto the roof. White, who's 53 with the Rock Island address, was the last one seen after an associate gave him a ride to OMAC that morning. Both left notes for jail authorities before they escaped. Okanogan County Sheriff Tony Hawley said anyone who sees the men should not approach them, but contact law enforcement immediately. A structure fire not far from the Lake Chelan Airport this morning destroyed an outbuilding and threatened a home. Chelan Fire and Rescue responders say the fire started about 12:15 a.m. on rural Shadow Lane in a 400-square-foot shop and storage shed. It spread to another outbuilding and a stock pen and then threatened the nearby residents before it was brought under control. The effort took just over an hour. Firefighters say the blaze may have been caused by a heat lamp. Luckily, no one was injured. Grant County reported 8 more COVID-19 deaths on Thursday, 4 of them associated with an outbreak at Columbia Crest Center in Moses Lake. The senior home has now recorded 12 total deaths from the virus. 2 of the latest Columbia Crest deaths were women in their 60s, another woman in her 80s, and a man in his 70s. The non-senior home deaths reported by the Grant County Health District were a woman in her 40s, a man in his 60s, and another man in his 80s, all from Moses Lake. The 8th death was a man in his 60s from Mattawa. All 8 of the most recent deaths involve people with underlying health conditions. 91 deaths in Grant County have been attributed to the coronavirus. Well, if you've been wondering how much COVID-19 vaccine is on the way and when you might get yours, well, on Wednesday, the state of Washington outlined the next phases for vaccine recipients. Right now, frontline medical workers and long-term care residents have priority. If enough vaccine becomes available later this month, the Department of Health says everyone age 70 and up is next in line.
So here you can see the tiers for phase 1B and our hopes for the corresponding timeline to get the vaccine to people. So phase 1B includes four tiers of vaccine prioritization. Tier 1 includes 2 groups, all people age 70 and older and people age 50 and older who live in multi-generational households. Tier 2 includes high-risk critical workers age 50 and older who work in congregate settings. So that means agricultural, food processing, grocery stores, K-12, schools, and so teachers and staff who are back in the classroom, childcare, corrections, prisons, jails, public transit, fire, and law enforcement. Tier 3 includes people 16 to 70 years old with 2 or more underlying conditions. And Tier 4 includes high-risk critical workers in congregate settings under age 50, so those same congregate settings as Tier 2, but bringing in everybody under age 50 years of age. And then Tier 4 also includes a second group of people, including people, staff, and volunteers of all ages in congregate living settings like correctional facilities, group homes for people with disabilities, and shelters for people experiencing homelessness. We're following a federal framework, so that's like the Advisory Committee on Immunization Frameworks, and then using our community input and COVID clinical and epi data to decide on who to vaccinate in what order. These are really tough decisions. We wish there was vaccine right away for all. We have created these phases to make sure we are distributing vaccine in an equitable way to protect those in our state who are most at risk.
The weekly measure of the Wenatchee Valley's COVID-19 situation continues to rise. The Chelan-Douglas Health District's thermographic of current infections per 100,000 members of the population reached 693.9 this week. That's up from New Year's week and the highest number since November. Health officials continue to stress the best ways to avoid infection are social distancing, wearing a facial mask if you must be among others, and washing your hands frequently. Coming up next, the Washington State Patrol is investigating a fire that destroyed an overhead reader board on Interstate 90 east of George early this morning. The Wenatchee School District needs bus drivers and wants new applicants for the job. And the Washington Legislature comes back into session on Monday. We'll have a preview. I'm Grant Olson, and you're watching the NCWLIFE Evening News.
Winter is a great time to trade in your current hot tub. Turn your old hot tub into money with Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa's trade-in program. You can save $500 to $1,000 off of any new artesian spa or take advantage of a free Bluetooth music experience. Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa recommends draining your hot tub every 3 months. Ask us about our drain and refill special. Stop on by Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa today.
I'm Tom from Alpine Air Heating and Cooling. At Alpine Air, we think of ourselves as customer service-oriented retailers. When you make an appointment, please visit our store, meet our people, see our shop. We are serious about heating and air conditioning. Carrier and Alpine Air are offering huge factory rebates and financing options for all your needs. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Alpine Air. Call for your free replacement estimate. Heat and air, call Alpine Air, 662-6846.
Mary Maids of Wenatchee has been professionally cleaning and sanitizing homes and businesses in North Central Washington since 1998. Mary Maids uses commercial-grade cleaners and viricides. Mary Maids has implemented additional safety and sanitation protocols. They are strictly following CDC guidelines for the safety of their clients and employees. For expert help with cleaning and sanitizing your home or business, call or look up Mary Maids of Wenatchee to schedule your free estimate today.
Welcome back. In another news, the Washington State Patrol is investigating a fire that destroyed an overhead reader board on Interstate 90 east of George early this morning. The fire led to the closure of westbound lane about 5 this morning. Traffic still was able to make its way through the underpass at milepost 164, but the State Department of Transportation reported delays during that investigation. The Wenatchee School District needs bus drivers and wants new applicants for the job. Transportation Director Jennifer Lagadinas says a shortage of drivers plus an increase in routes as more students return to school this month means there's a sense of urgency to recruit and train new personnel. Starting pay is $21.45 an hour. You can apply to the Washington School District Transportation Department at 662-6168 or visit the district website. The Washington Legislature comes back into session on Monday. Despite the security threats, State House leaders said yesterday the session will be centered at the Capitol in Olympia with remote participation. House Speaker Lori Jenkins and Republican leader J.T. Wilcox say their chamber may set new rules allowing the legislature to call itself back into session when there's a state of emergency like the COVID-19 crisis.
I think that the big weakness of the legislature is that a number of years ago we started not adopting joint rules that allowed that would have allowed us to call ourselves into special session. And the biggest check that we could ever have on governor's executive powers, if we want to take other action, is to call ourselves into special session. One of the things that's on our agenda for opening day of legislative session is to adopt joint rules for this 2-year biennium so that we can do that. And I think that's what the responsibility of the legislature is. Contrary to what some folks think, there actually has been quite a bit of engagement with all four corners of the legislature. The governor has issued dozens of proclamations through this. Any proclamation that he has issued which alters statutory requirements can only last for 30 days, and it can only be extended by the four corners of the legislature, all four, the minority and the majority parties in both houses, agreeing to extend them.
The governor needs to have the power to respond to emergencies, but it shouldn't have no limit. At this time, it's defined as the extent of the emergency until the emergency ends. And it doesn't say, when that happens. We don't know when that happens yet. Most of his emergency powers are established by law passed by the legislature going back to the 80s. So it absolutely has been within the purview of the legislature to talk about emergency powers, and it should be in the future. So I hope that that's not off the table. And actually, yesterday was the first day that I had heard about the joint rules challenge. It never has been called into session by just the legislature. I hope that we can make that easier to do in the future, but that doesn't mean that we can't talk about these legislatively established rules for emergencies.
You're watching the NCWLIFE Evening News. Coming up next, tonight's feature story and your complete local weather forecast. That and much more still to come on the NCWLIFE Evening News. Please stay with us.
The 2021 models are arriving at Sangster Motors. General Motors is on the move with the all-new 2021 Yukon. Yukon is redesigned from the ground up with a bold new look and all the latest technology. Also new is the Canyon AT4 pickup. This off-road equipped mid-size truck will challenge any rival for performance and value. Both of these models will offer Duramax diesel options for maximum power and economy. The American Challenge is game on at Sangster Motors now.
If you are looking for dependable car service and repair, visit the good guys at Quick Lube and Tune. They've been keeping cars and trucks in the Wenatchee Valley running smooth for 35 years. Quick Lube and Tune is your hometown shop for a 10-minute oil change, complete tune-ups, alignments, brakes, mufflers, air conditioning service, and more. Get more life out of your vehicle by bringing it to the local guys you can trust at Quick Lube and Tune on South Wenatchee Avenue.
Welcome back to the NCWLIFE Evening News. The evening of December 19th, Central Washington Hospital physical therapist Zoe Hedges called police to report on a concert being held at the BPOE building in Wenatchee in defiance of the state's restrictions on large gatherings. She later wrote a letter that was published in the Wenatchee World, highly critical of the Wenatchee Police Department's response that night. In tonight's feature story, Hedges appeared this week on the NCWLIFE show Common Sense with Dominic Bonney and explained her frustration. Also on the show, Wenatchee Police Chief Steve Crown responded to her criticism and explained the approach being taken by his department.
So, when I reached out, I didn't get a good response. I got a dismissive response. Basically, they wanted to know why I was calling. And I said, well, there's a large indoor gathering, people without masks, breaking the state mandate. And their response was, well, is it loud? And I'm like, would that matter? Like, this is a virus that's killing people and filling up our hospital bed. I feel like that's more important than if it's loud or not. And so the response I got was pretty dismissive. They just said, listen, we've already told you we aren't going to enforce these, and we don't even know why you're bothering to call.
Zoe Hedges, in her letter, she talks about a Washington administrative code. Administrative codes are developed within policy. They are not law per se, and you always have to have an enabling statute that allows you to file any charges under a very specific WAC, or Washington Administrative Code. Left standing alone sure seems like you've got a smoking gun when you read WAC. There's your authority. Our problem here in the city of Wenatchee is that we have city codes. And if the city code has not adopted a state RCW, then you can't file it with our city attorney. Our city attorney does not have the authority to file state statutes into our court system. We're being thrust into yet another unfunded mandate and additive to everything that we're trying to accomplish as a police department, including that public trust piece, which you don't want to erode through these type of situations. I think that the health officer for Chelan Douglas could have done a little bit more in regards to reaching out to them. I know that leading up to the event, we had conversations with one of the organizers, and we gave them the sternest warnings we possibly can. Don't do it. It's not a good idea. But unfortunately, they did not heed that advice. And so that kind of leads us to where we are today. You know, I still do not think from a policy standpoint that police departments should be out ahead of this charge. I would challenge anybody to find a location in our state or even our nation that is taking that stance.
All right, time now to turn to weather in your North Central Washington weather forecast. Let's take a look outside our weather window from this afternoon. Not a lot to show you out there today because there were a lot of low-hanging clouds. Don't have to tell you that. Still a little bit of that cloudiness this afternoon, about mid-afternoon on the Cascades, and it was a wet one all over Wenatchee. This is looking south on the Cascadian camera on Wenatchee Avenue, and it was a wet one out there. We'll get to that in a second. High temperature today was pretty nice. 37 degrees, our unofficial high. 33 now is our normal high temperature. 33 was our overnight low temperature this morning, and that's up from 24 where we should be. 2009, it was a nice one. 52, our record high temperature. A little bit chilly in 1979, though, at 1 degree below zero. 23/100ths of an inch of moisture so far, and that also includes that little bit of rain last night and up until I could actually get some readings before the newscast. And that gets us now over a ½ inch for this month at 56/100ths of an inch. Sunrise 7:47, sunset this afternoon at 4:29. Let's get you into your first peek at our weekend weather. And temperatures tomorrow, a lot like today, maybe just slightly warmer tomorrow. It will be a dry one tomorrow, but we could see a lot of patchy fog, especially in the morning, maybe lingering into afternoon. Upper 30s in the Columbia Basin, Ephrata, Moses Lake, 37 in Quincy, 35. So it will be a little cooler in Wenatchee tomorrow, 35 in Eniat, and all the way up Highway 97 and into Omak. Also a high temperature tomorrow of 35 degrees. Surface loop time will take you through the next 7 days. Tonight, patchy fog. We mentioned that all throughout Washington State. We might see a little bit of clearing overnight too as we move through the night. Here's our next storm system. Not going to do much. Just kind of wiggle out in the Pacific Ocean and for about 2 days or so before it comes on our way next week. For Saturday then, cloudy skies, patchy fog, a little bit cooler tomorrow. We just showed you that too. A little bit of that colder Arctic air coming down, and that'll be short-lived. That's good news. For Sunday, a little bit of morning fog, then mostly cloudy by afternoon. We'll see slightly warmer temperatures. You can see the green color just nosing up a little bit farther into Washington State. That's mid to upper 30s. For Monday, cloudy skies, and here comes that atmospheric river. We talked about it at the top of the newscast. A 40% chance for mainly late day evening showers on Monday, and then that host hose gets turned on Tuesday. We are going to see a wet one. In fact, that number probably should be a little bit higher. A 50% chance of rain. The good news with that southwesterly flow, look at some of these temperatures. We're talking 50s down in southeast Washington. We'll see middle 40s as we get into Tuesday. Also on Wednesday, isolated showers and mostly cloudy, mainly for Wednesday, and still very, very mild with high temperatures again in the mid 40s, maybe upper 40s for the Columbia Basin. And then on Thursday, quiet weather, partly cloudy, dry, and still very, very mild. We're going to see high temperatures just about statewide, anywhere between 40 and 50 degrees. But look at the size of that next system, and that's coming our way a week from today into next Friday. Let's take a look now at your 7-day forecast. 29 overnight tonight, 35 tomorrow. We could see that lingering fog throughout the day on Saturday, a little bit cooler, and then a nice warm up Sunday into Monday. But here comes that atmospheric river for Monday, Tuesday, and Tuesday night. Temperatures will warm with that warmer air as well. And by the time we get to Thursday, partly cloudy skies and mild with a high temperature then 43 degrees. And that's a look at your local weather forecast. Coming up next, tonight's sports report with Eric Grandstrom and more as the NCWLIFE Evening News continues right after this.
Hi, my name is Blaine Johnson. I'm at Global Elite Motors. We're tied in with Global Car Care down here locally. So we're not your typical car buying experience. Somebody can come down here, take a look at what we have, and if we have the right vehicle for you, we'd be glad to help you out with it. A lot of times we are able to go out and find specific vehicles for somebody so that it fits their needs, their budget, and all the things that you want without you being obligated right away. If you're looking for a good, reliable car, come see me, Blaine Johnson, down at Global Elite Motors.
And now it's a sports update on the NCWLIFE channel.
And a happy Friday to you. The WIAA Executive Board voted Wednesday night to restart high school sports in Washington February 1st. The decision was to reshuffle its original plan of starting with traditional winter sports and put fall sports such as football first. While that may work for schools in Western Washington, weather and restart phasing would prohibit such a plan here in Eastern Washington. I was able to hold a video conference with 3 local athletic directors to learn more about the plan affecting schools here in North Central Washington. Jeff, I wanted to see where you guys are and what's happening at Cashmere right now and in the Caribou Trail Lake.
We're in a region with 4 other counties. So there's been a real emphasis today on trying to coordinate with those other leagues in our region and trying to find a way to get kids back on the field. And what that's going to look like, we're not too sure yet. We're still in preliminary conversations. But our goal this year is not to win trophies, not to win state championships. It's to get games on the schedule and play those games. I mean, that's what's most important to us. So any way that we can do that, that's how we're going to move forward. Maybe Russ and Jim could talk a little bit more about the conversations we've had, because we have talked with them a lot, and it might be a situation where we're playing bigger schools out of our classification that are closer to us in order to just get games, because I don't know how many competitions we're going to be able to have outside of our region. So things will probably look different once we do start playing, but we're totally fine with that as long as we're on the fields.
So Russ, I'll start with you. As far as the Big Nine is concerned, where are we?
We discussed the Big Nine, and to an AD in the league, it was, fellas, don't wait for us. If our region's not there, we're not going to hold us to a Big Nine schedule. So I think the consensus at this point, but there's got to be a lot more discussion, a lot more input and research on this, is to go to more of a regionalization format. It makes a lot of sense. The things that Jeff was saying, it makes a lot of sense in regards to COVID, in regards to putting kids on a bus, smaller distance for transportation. We're all on the same page. We're not going to build a schedule that's going to be canceled 2 days before a competition because the metrics went sideways. It just makes a lot of sense. But we've got a lot of conversation to do with a lot of different ADs, a lot of different district superintendents and everybody else to make sure that we've got everything ready to go. And we've only got a very short amount of time to get that done.
So for Wenatchee High School, for football, for example, does that mean practice starts on February 1st and there's possibly games 2 weeks later, or what's that look like?
Realistically, the ability to start on February 1st is not very good. I mean, obviously because we have a turf field and can remove the snow from our turf field, it benefits us, and we potentially could be ready to go by February 1st. But if you've been out to Leavenworth lately or up north in Okanogan area and those kinds of places, playing football on February 1st is not going to happen. And so that's part of our discussion, and that's what makes this so difficult is not only are we looking at the reality that the best thing is regionalizing things, but then we've got to realize we've got to take, I think the decision the WIA Executive Board was made more because there's more schools in Western Washington and their ability to get outside on February 1st is much greater than ours. But they've also given us the leniency to be able to change and modify to what best fits us in our region.
Russ, I thought that this was varsity only. So I'm wrong in that when we're talking about any kind of resumption of sports, or how?
Right now, the priority would be to, yes, have a varsity schedule, but we want to try and get as many of our kids back participating as possible and make this work. If that means that we're going to have, play multiple times with schools, if we have to play Moses Lake and Wenatchee multiple times with a JV team or a C or D team, then so be it, because it's about, again, that social mental health of these kids getting back with their friends and their coaches and doing something productive that's a positive in their life.
If you want to watch the entire interview, head to our website at NCWLIFE.com. Taking a quick look at the Les Schwab scoreboard in college basketball last night. Corey Kispert had 23 points to lead number 1 Gonzaga to an 86-69 win over BYU. Isaac Bonton had 22 points to lead Washington State past Cal 71-60. Washington no match for Stanford 91-75. The final coming up tomorrow. Washington plays at Cal at noon. Gonzaga travels to Portland at 5, while Washington State plays at Stanford at 6:30. On the women's side, Washington and Washington State's games against Arizona schools scheduled for today have been postponed due to COVID. Number 21 Gonzaga hosts Portland at 2 o'clock tomorrow. On the schedule for Sunday, number 7 Arizona is at Washington State at 11, followed by Arizona State and Washington at 1 o'clock. Of course, the big tilt this weekend tomorrow. Lumen Field, Seahawks hosting the Rams in the NFC wildcard playoffs. Kickoff at 1:40 on Fox, with the winner advancing to the divisional round. Here's the rest of the wildcard schedule this weekend. Kicks off tomorrow morning at 10:05 with the Colts and Bills on CBS. Then after the Seahawks and Rams, it's Tampa Bay and Washington at 5:15 on NBC. Sunday's lineup has Tennessee hosting Baltimore at 10:05 on ESPN. New Orleans hosts Chicago at 1:40 on CBS. Then Pittsburgh takes on Cleveland at 5:15 on NBC. A quick look at what's happening this weekend on the NCWLIFE channel starts tonight with the State 1A girls semifinal from basketball last year between Cashmere and LaSalle. That's at 7 o'clock. On Saturday, watch Cashmere boys trophy game in the Yakima Sundome against Riverview at 2, followed by Cashmere girls and Lennon Christian for the state championship at 7. Then a double feature of Wenatchee Wild hockey on Sunday against West Kelowna at 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. That's a sports weekend come. Have a good one. Be safe. See you Monday. Grant, back to you.
Thank you very much, Eric. And now let's check in with Dan Kuntz for a look at what's coming up Monday morning on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. Dan?
Thank you very much, Grant. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Join me on Monday, January 11th. My guest will be Dr. Mark Johnson, who is an infectious disease specialist with Confluence Health. We're going to talk about the COVID-19 vaccine, how it works, how you get it, the whole 9 yards. Extremely important information from Dr. Johnson. Again, he's an infectious disease specialist at Confluence Health. He'll be my guest on Monday. Plus, we'll have your forecast. I'll wrap up in the weekend of sports and everything you need to start your next week. Next week, Monday at 7 a.m. live and local for Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. Graham, back to you.
Have a great weekend, Dan. And that's going to do it for our newscast tonight. For more on these stories and other news from around North Central Washington, you can find us on Facebook or our website at ncwlife.com. And remember, if you see news happening, we'd like to hear from you. You can send us an email at news@ncwlife.com or give us a call at 888-6295. I'm Grant Olson. Thanks for joining us, and have a great weekend.
To help others. You need a solid career. You can have it all with help from Charter College. Our 10-month medical assistant program prepares you to work in healthcare settings like physician offices, rehab centers, and clinics. You'll learn to take patient vitals, assist with exams, administer injections, and maintain medical records. When you're ready to launch a rewarding healthcare career, Visit chartercollege.edu, because we work to get you to work.
Hey everyone, Fletcher and Amy Ellingson here from Live It Up. Join us every week as we answer your questions on health, wealth, and relationships.
We're all about you creating a life that you love, so tune in to Live It Up.